清净心怎么个修法呢？离一切恶名，凡是不善的，不要去听，不要去看，不要去想。我们心才能得清净啊！我在讲习里面跟同学们讲了多少次啊？想呢，想弥陀本愿功德，想48愿，就想这个，不要想别的。要念呢，就念名号功德，念4个字也好，念6个字也好，其他的不要再去念了。念这句佛号叫正念、正语，想西方极乐世界一真庄严，想48愿本愿功德，这是正思维，正念正思维，这就对了。不要再搞辩论，人家对我们有什么冤屈，不要去辩论，不要去想。为什么呢？想一遍又造一遍我。
阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛。Good day, everyone. Today we'll continue with the 太上感应篇, Treatise and Response and Retributions. We have been quite a while with this. This is a long journey, and it's not even half of it, if I may say. But it has been rewarding to myself, and I hope it's the same for you guys, for everyone else who's watching, because the whole point of us having this session, as I have mentioned, we are trying to get a hang of it, why things happen the way they are, how does one get into a better position in their life in terms of all kinds of position, like financial, like all this stuff, right? The health, the wealth, financials, the status, being respected, esteemed, prestigious, or being healthy, being having a good relationship socially, improving as well socially, in terms of with other friends, with your family, with your relatives. And all these things are something we yearn for, and they are all part of the ingredients of our recipe of happiness. And with that, we can have a peace of mind and have much more kinder outlook in life and less pessimistic and aggressive. So 太上感应篇 is very important in this treatise on response and retribution, because it teaches us those things that mess it up, things that will cause us unfortune, cause us a peace of mind, right? Hence, our action, our deeds, our speech is messy everywhere. It's not at peace, because we are blinded by the 5 poison, greed, hatred, ignorance. Those are very general summary by the Buddha, but they brings the truth in it. If we observe life, if you live life long enough, you observe people around you, yourself, and stuff like that. Also, doubt and arrogance. So all these give rise to many misdeeds, wrongful deeds, the evil deeds, or unwholesome deeds, whatever the way we say it, is something that is harming others, harming yourself. And what太上感应篇trying to do is trying to list it out for us, so that we can one by one understand why this is a transgression, why we shouldn't do this. That's why we're here. We learn about this. So today we talk about part 9, conceal unwholesome deeds. As of last week, we have dabbled quite a bit with the first 2 phrases. This part won't be too long, because it's a short and sweet one. So we have about 3 clauses, 3 groups of clauses in total, but they are quite crucial for us to take note, because this one focuses on something that is beneath the surface, deep inside your psyches, deep inside your mind, those kind of behaviors that was wired in you due to either upbringings, your past life. It has factor in it, the kind of habits you have, the way you think, the kind of the mode of thinking, the mode of treating something. In this case, you have someone who is full of envy, jealousy, and dissatisfaction. And when they see someone reaching that satisfaction of either being rich and esteemed, or being well-rounded, skills, they start to defame. They react out of that without putting a pause into it and allowing the worst part of themselves to show. Because all this is because of ignorance, ignorance of how people came to their wealth, power. And if we do not understand the law of cause and effect, do not understand we reap what we sow, and do not have full confidence, too much doubt, too much loophole, too much doubt in it, we don't understand it, then it's very hard not to give rise to these thoughts of enviousness, being envy, being uncomfortable when you see someone doing very well, but you're not, right? It's always like that. We'll be comparing and trying to, one up. Even it's not like that. We have that part of ourselves that we might want to, get better and better. If it's not used properly, it will become destructive and be start from this kind of thoughts. I hope that this person will fall in grace, doing something scandalous that will make society disappoint in him, no longer esteemed, no longer respected. Or when he wish his wealth to be taken away, carving up by his children, who is in argument and not in harmony. Stuff like that is very subtle, very poisonous, if it's not properly used. So understand karma help us to know that why people are the way they are, and it's just hurting you from actually improving your life. It diverts you from that point. So last week we basically just talked about this one, and why are we in this world? Where are we going from here? Those things gives rise to the question. Extrapolate from this, because why is someone richer? Why is someone born impoverished and sad? And being aware and enlightened, we start with understanding cause and effect. Even we can't see it in our eye, before our eyes, we need to have faith in the character of person who share it, like Buddha. We understand this person is not, they have no motive to lie. They don't need to. He does not need fame. He already has fame when he was born. He does not need money. He's a prince. He does not need anything from us, but trying to show us a path where we can be better and better and better, eventually no longer creating the condition of our sufferings. So those things takes time, and it's always okay to think, why is this person better than me? Why is he so well-rounded, but I'm not? This is a very normal question. When you have this unequal condition, obviously people will ask. That problem is not asking questions. The problem is putting prejudice or preconceived or bias or stuff like that before on top of it, before you actually being humble enough to look at the thing more objectively, right? We can't be 100% objective, but we can't just immediately label things as those people must have exploited many people, and then we need to overthrow it, stuff like that. Granted, there are people like that. They're at the top. They were exploiting. They were using their power and position to get even more wealth and even more power. But the thing is, we can't dwell on this this stage, because you already seen the consequences in history. After this revolution, after that revolution, after this killing and one war after another, unequality, has the equality been achieved? Has it been fully attained? It's not the solution. Those are all patchworks. They are good, in the way that it's restructuring a little bit, that everyone had a goal, but those are only conditions. They are not the cause. The actual cause has to come from somewhere where everyone can relate to it, can be part of it. That's the truth, right? Otherwise it will be just theory. So what happens is, when everyone has a different habits, right? Say that you and your neighbor kids born together in the same time, same place, same gender, exactly the same physiques and stuff, but you have a different conditions. That's if you start on the same point, start from the same starting line. The problem is not everyone starts on the same starting line. Some people already have accumulated a lot of experience, and you only happen to start at this point. They already accumulate tons. All right. The problem is we have lifespan issues. We need to renew our body in a sense of rebirth and death, and hence this is why when two persons appears to be the same in the beginning, maybe twins, even twin brothers, but their habit can be quite different. All right. So those looks, those attitude and everything has to be based something beyond what we can see, but it has to be reasonable as well. So without making it too weird, too off-putting, we are okay to have this kind of questions. Like, why is this not the same? And that will lead you to find the answers. Once you find the answers, you will be able to, and when that thing cracks, answers, you crack open the mysteries, you will feel at peace. That's the ultimate goal. Otherwise, it will lead to this. People who falls into a wrong conclusion. The only way I can make it equal is to take what belongs to us, justifying wrong thinking after another, and then wrong thinking becomes wrong act. You reap, you rob people's property, wealth, and stuff like that, and then only end up becoming the person you hate the most, because you're the one who have the most wealth and property and doesn't change, right? Whatever, in the name of whatever ideology they have, right? Obviously, in a broader perspective, it might be better in that certain time, but those are, like I said, this does not scratch the itch. Those are very shallow, superficial look, because we are very short-lived beings in comparison to the world, to the earth, and we are very that makes us very short-sighted. By impulse, we can see things only tomorrow, next day, and if we go too far beyond, we need to have someone who can guide us. We need to have a more mature outlook in that. We need to go beyond now. Beyond what we understand, and this karma is meant to be, tangible. You can see it. Obviously, intangible as well, in the terms of you can't see it now because you can't see what you did in the past. That makes you who you are, and makes you better than someone else who's supposed to be the same point, or makes you worse than someone else who already starting earlier than you. So. In Buddhism, we say that in the human life, we are all about repaying the debt. 人生酬业 it sounds very pessimistic, very sad. Like, oh yeah, so the whole life is to pay debt. It sounds terrible. Like, yeah, you bog down with home loan and all this stuff. It's coming that, right? But if you settle down and let the emotion reside, then actually observe, invite everyone to have a look. Everyone in their own life, their walks of life, from children to teenagers to young adult to elderly, and then pass away. The interaction with other people, not one is exactly the same. Why is it like that? Why is your relationship with your parents so good, but the other family's relationship are not so good? The parents taking care so well of these kids, but the other family, the parents don't even care about her. Just toss the money and tell them to, live on your own. Or some doesn't even come back home. There's a very sad meme that we have. Oh, the father went out to buy the milk, but he never came back. The kind of meme, but it's very sad when we think about it. But yet that happens every day in our life. Despite whether we want or not want, it happens. So many things against our wishes, or so many things not with our wishes, and that makes us think. Why is this like? What's the force behind it? In the absence of powers to see, ability to understand, some people might jump to conclusion. They might attribute to some external force, attribute to other people, attribute to some spirits, or attribute to some imaginations they have. All right, and everyone's seeing what they see, what they want to see. Fitting the mold as they see fit, and it's like. I like this analogy. Everyone wrapping their clothes, the bandana around their neck, their eyes, That means everyone's blind, right? And in the absence of sight, they came across a elephant. And when they touched the elephant, because they never seen an elephant before, they're born blind or something. And when they touch the elephant, they only use what they understand to analyze it. One touches the tail, thinking it's a snake. Maybe he's seen snake before he gone blind. One touching the leg, the stubby leg, thinking it's a tree log. The other one touching a trunk, thinking is a twig or something. So everyone's analyzing from what they understand, from what they have. No one gets the whole piece because they are lacking that ability to see, or they are like the bandana covering your eyes. They were covered by the obstacles, And the only way to actually see things as it is to take off the veil, that cover your face and see it as it is, without imagining. Problem is we have no ability to do it. It's our reality right now. We can't see it. We have the ability to see it, but we can't use it. And it's like you have multi-million-dollar oil storage right under your house. You can be a trillionaire, but you don't know about it, or you don't have the tools to tap into it, right? So everyone has that. So this leaves us a question: what should we do then? Staying in ignorance is not really, in my case at least, it's not something I want to be. I don't want to be ignorant, because blindly do stuff, blindly do things without seeing as it is. You would eventually lead yourself to a lot of mistakes that sometimes is irreparable, irredeemable. The only path is to suffer the consequences, and sometimes it's too far. This is a really big roundabout. Not saying that anyone is in cannot be redeemed, but the problem is it's very, sometimes when you're off the track too much, it's taking a long time. I'm talking about lifetimes. Come back. It's not easy. So back to the point here, right? We need to first understand what we know, objectively as piece of the puzzle. You did touch the elephant, you did touch the skin and all that, and it did feel like a rope or a snake, but it's not. You can't see it, so you can't just jump to conclusions. Second is, have a well-founded understanding of yourself, of your limitations, and then have that hunger for truth, seeking for truth. The hunger is because this condition is plaguing you from getting better, because you stumble in the dark, you're touching things like in this transgression, this kind of mindset. It's hurting yourself in the end. It's hurting other people, it's hurting yourself, and because you spend all the energy on others, focus too much on other people's achievement and stuff, and not using the right kind of lens to use it, means you drain your energy on trying to dismiss that person, trying to make that person lower because you can't get it, so no one can get it. That kind of twisted mindset, that is very sad, because if we use the energy instead to observe the good part, say this person is very hardworking. Yeah, I'm hardworking too. Why am I not getting it? The problem, and if we all focus on the results, the fruit, then it's very hard for us to focus on what really matters. The kind of attitude that the person might have that you can learn from, that will improve your relationship with other people, and hence increase your fortune indirectly, right? Because it's all about connections and stuff like that. One thing I learned about work is connections. It's, without connections, you can't go anywhere, because everything is reliant on the conditions. And if we too, eagerly trying to look for connections, which is nothing wrong with that, but instead we need to focus more on our quality of connection as well. You can make a lot of connections randomly. Go to the street and just make connection with anyone. But the problem is quality connections. And that needs something smarter. You need to be a magnet. to the right kind of people. To do that, you need to be that kind of people. Otherwise, how can you attract that kind of people? So same goes for wealth, same goes for prestige, for esteem. Why are these things so sought after? Because they offer comfort, they offer sort of happiness, but there should not be the end goal itself. It's just a side. It's just a consequences, in a sense, of a person being respectful, dignified at heart. That means they do not give rise to unwholesome thoughts, deeds. They clean their act very well, as in they constantly refreshing themselves. They don't complain for the sake of complaint. They know they see the problem, they trying to find a way to solve it. Just like Buddha see the problem of life and death. What makes him so great, worthy of respect, right, is he did not just sit here and say, hey man, that's it, we can't do anything. He has a very strong drive to find, no matter how hard it takes, maybe he might lose his life in the process, but he wants to find a solution to this problem. Because this thing is actually a problem. He recognizes a problem as a problem. Right? A lot of us just take it as is. Because in the absence of better wisdom, sometimes we just can't overcome this karmic force. It's like trying to swim against the ocean tide. It's not impossible, but it's hard. And how long can you last? It takes a lot of practice. And to practice, you need to have motivation. What kind of motivation it is, right? So in our case, like Buddha has done this, and of course he's appearing now the 8,000th time, according to one of the sutra, 8,000th time as a Buddha. Of course, that means that he already has been practicing, attained that level a long time ago. But doesn't mean that he does not struggle. Back then, he still struggle as the same thing as you are, and he still have his trouble. His heart to clean. He needs to clean his mind as well, and it takes him many lifetimes to do it. And it makes us appreciate how hard it is, and actually gives us confidence, which is the point I'm trying to do now. Which is the point I'm trying to get at: confidence or faith. In this case, the faith we talk about is the confidence in that person. That that person has the experience, has gone through what you've gone through, has a wealth of understanding, knowledge, gained directly from first-hand experience. He sees the elephant as the elephant, the entirety of it. None of them is entirely correct. None of them is entirely wrong, but they are blindfolded. They can't see the whole thing. Hence, they can't reach the desired result because it's just the cause is not right. How can you have a good effect? And to have someone who are able to see things, in its entirety, telling you how you step by step how to get out of it, get out of your ignorance, is precious. That means you no longer have to suffer from this ignorance. So back to this, why is people not equal? Why are people not having the equal? Why is equality so hard to be achieved? Why are we not born equal in a sense? Right? Despite what we say, we are all born equal in a sense, but the conditions that we are thrust upon is different. Some people are just born in wealth. Some people are born in poverty. Some people has a very, very, very loving relationship with their family. Some people has terrible, troublesome one, their own family. And one of the Venerable Master Chin Kung, when he go to Hong Kong for Dharma talk back in 1977, I'm actually reading the script. He was living in one of the old Venerable's house, not house, his Dharma hall, and in this hall, it has a set of words. The Chinese like to write a pair of probes, poems, proverbs. So one of them says, husband and wife is a affinity. They are good affinity, they are bad affinity. Alright? And, bad affinity means they trying to get back at each other in vengeance. based on the past. And then the second half of the clause or proverb is your children. Having children is like having debt. And one of them is, you have a debit. The other one, you have a creditor, you have a debitor. Someone is come to claim the debt from you, or someone's trying to repaying, their debt to you. So if there is nothing, if you guys don't owe them, if you didn't owe each other, if the parents and children didn't owe each other, they won't become parents and children. So husband and wife won't become husband and wife if there's no good affinity or bad affinity. All right, it has to have affinity. If you have no affinity, you would just be strangers. Right, very strong affinity to become husband and wife. The thing is that quality of the relationship depends on the affinity. What is affinity? The past, everything, all sorts of interaction. The smile, or the anger, the talk, the way you talk, the tone, what you did to her, what he did to you, or what you did to him, what she did to you, in the past, say to you. All sorts of interaction that accumulates over time, good and bad, in the terms of pleasant or unpleasant, and whether you hold a grudge or not is another element. That's why it's very complicated to talk about karma in such a detailed way, because it's better to see it rather than just talk about it. Why Buddha has to talk about it, because a lot of us can't see it. If you sitting next to him, maybe he can, but now he's not here. He didn't appear before us anymore. So your best way is to listen from it. And it's a very sound logic. So in a sense, the other half, if your children has nothing, they owe you nothing, or you owe nothing to your children, they will not come. They'll become your children. There's no condition for it to happen. Right? We're all saying biologically, this is how you have a children, but those are conditions. Those are not the cause. What makes this your children, not that your children? What makes your children your children? Why is this children always, in terms of practically speaking, like, why is some of the children taking such a long time to, say, graduate or leave your house, and then eating in a lot of your budget? You work hard, you may get a good bonus, but then most of the money was spent on your children. Some of them are just normal, like once they finish uni or stuff like that, they leave. They no longer be a financial burden to you. That means you have pay for it. And if you do well, some of them might even pay back to you. Of course, we don't want to make it too mechanical. It's human, relationships. And these are just simply looking at a very big scope, and very, very, very macro kind of look at the entirety of humanities. And if it's not an enlightened being who said that, it's just arrogance. But this is something that someone sees it as is. Observe many, many people, and maybe understand not just this current interaction, previous interactions. Right? If we can't believe in past life, at least think of holding a grudge. It's a very common thing. Yeah, this guy did to me something 5 months ago. He took my credit of my work, so now I want to get back at him. Those things make sense to us. So who says it does not carry from the past life as well, right? Same goes for future. So what you did now is whatever interaction you have will leave an imprint in their mind, and this will lead to, a future cause for the future interaction. So everything you do is a cost for any future effect. You say something nice and genuine, kind to them. Sometimes it might sound not as sweet to the ear because it's a harsh truth. You may be blunt, but you try your best to give the best advice so that that person can do best. In future, when he reaches that point, he will think back and thank you and maybe even able to help you. So in a sense, no matter what kind of human relationship you have with your family or your people around you, there's only one principle: always, avoid making enemies. Avoid, no matter how hard it is. If you understand how serious it is the consequences of having a grudge, and let that grudge becomes hatred and ended up in huge, in a big way, becomes killing and stuff like that, then you will no longer have any energy to want to have a bad, it's not unwise anymore. You just understand, like, there's just nothing in it for you to, make enemies out of anyone. And then if people come to you negatively, we need to be more understanding. Doesn't mean that we can't bounce back, but the problem is, this is a process. Trust the process, right? When we talk about that, we need to understand that if we take it in, as in personal direct attack, of course it will be painful. Of course you will want to fight back, hit back. Or maybe, if you receive insult on your family, of course you will bounce back. But does that help to elevate the situation? Being reactive to this is a very human thing. But at the same time, you need to take a very inhuman energy of patience to actually overcome this very human stuff. Otherwise, you get stuck in this condition. And that's where practice comes in. Understanding comes in. So if you understand these two proverbs, how do you summarize human relationships? Grudge, gratitude. That's one pair. The other pair is debt. You owe each other. Someone owe you or you owe someone. All right. Debit, credit. Put in a very cold way. Right. Debt management and anger management. Debt management and gratitude or grudge. The two types. All right. If there's no grudge, if there's no gratitude, if there's no debt to each one another in terms of karmic debt, you will never become friends or even acquainted. See, look in our daily life. We walk by the streets every day. So many people passing by you. Why is that person saying hi to you? Why is the other person not saying hi to you? Why is that person smiling at you? Why is the other person not smiling at you? Everyone that has interaction with you is a continuation of the previous interactions. All right. So, yeah, this is how affinity works. Some light affinity means you only met once and then you never see that guy at all, forever. Some who has deeper affinity, you keep seeing them every day, all right, every moment. That means you have a deep affinity, and deeper it is, the more close you are to each other in terms of your interaction, more frequent, and it becomes family. Closer it gets family, and husband and wife, even closer, stuff like that. So when Buddha tells us, human life is all about, fulfilling, the karmic obligation. It means, fulfilling the debt you owe them or they owe you, or fulfilling the grudge that you carry on from the past towards that person, or gratitudes from the past towards that person. Everyone in 6 realms will have to go through this. So this is why Buddha is here, trying to tell us all these 6 realms about how do we, be patient, be able to receive a very sharp remark, being able to, control your anger, practice meditative tranquility. All these is tools to help you to, engage with your body or emotions, in a way that you can overcome it. And if you're able to pass this test, no longer create the karma, then of course you get liberated. You're no longer recreating the same scenario again. So if you're wise, if you really learn about, what Buddha has to say, then you can spin everything lead everything back to Dharma. Good gratitude, those good affinity you have with these people, you have a good vibe, you have a good thing going on with this person, you can turn it into, Dharma affinity. It means was directed, the focus is no longer on you owe me, I owe you. It becomes, let's go to Pure Land together. Let's cultivate the path of liberation together. Make aware of these teachings in the way they can accept. Right? And then eventually your motivation becomes less one-to-one personal, more, broader, wider, deeper. I really want to help you to, to maximize the best, in your limited lifespan, or to make the most out of your current life, and slowly lead them to the Dharma, which is the path of enlightenment. Right? Of course, the negative, same goes for the negative karma. That one is even more important. If you don't fight with them, if you show care, if you understand, be empathize and able to, process it as well, the insult and the sharp remarks, with less emotion, with more understanding, with more, but I will, then the better you are at, stopping the recreation of your suffering. Because if you bounce back, because they do that to you because you owed them something, or you did something bad to them in the past that make them feeling begrudged towards you. So there is a reason behind it. Otherwise, why wouldn't Joe from the other town shout at me? Why would this person shout at me? Why is this person my friend? Why isn't that person my friend? Why is Smith my friend? Why isn't Bacon my friend? Stuff like that. All right. Yeah. Let's not go too deep into it. So now we move on to another phrase. To entertain adulterous and perverted thoughts in one's heart. Now, this is very common, unfortunately. This disclaimer, I'm not like escaping from this problem as well, because there's a saying in Buddhism that hits straight to the point. If our lust is not strong, we will not be born in Pure Land. I mean, we will not be reborn in this Saha world, the world of, difficulties, troubles. Saha world is 堪忍的世界, world that everyone's is, have to deal with imperfections, have to deal with a lot of difficulties. So here we talk about a scenario where, when you saw someone, literal translation is you see someone beautiful, physically appealing, your heart has, you give rise to a thought to want to have that person, want to own it, want to pursue it, and want to continue to act on it, on the lustful thoughts. So that is a very, human thing as well, right? But to the scale of this, that to the scale of how unleashed, we are as human species in this desire is very unprecedented in our current time compared to a long history in the past. Because if you look at history, there are, eras where, in Roman Empire, they are very liberal in terms of sexually very liberal. They do things, in open, that kind of act, and one way of saying it is the decline is sure to follow very soon after decline of the empire, like consequences, right? Everyone's too focused on this kind of a mateship between, to satisfy the lust, and forgot about the actual dangers, or managing the countries. So those things it's kind of like a primordial battle, your desire and your obligation on your desire versus your conscience, in a sense. I need to do this right, because the desire is always very in your face straight away. You don't even need to think about it, because we cultivate the habit so many lifetimes. And this side where you actually trying to fulfill your obligation or trying to do right by others, by yourself especially, by not giving rise to that kind of perverted thoughts, is weaker because you didn't practice enough, and you allowed yourself to be more immersed in that. This applies to myself, and I can't say to everyone else. But the problem is, if we look at the human world, human history, most of us have a lot of mix of this. So in current society, the level of how unfettered, how to say rampant, excessive it is unprecedented to any time in the recorded history, right? Because back then we might not have full freedom, but the division is very clear, right? Not all divisions are good, but sometimes some divisions need to be made, as in how you let's just use a case, because I don't know how to explain this. Well, the ancient Chinese have a system in place, right? In the Book of Rites, so Book of Book of Decency, 礼记, Book of Rites, how to conduct yourself properly. One of them is boys and girls, when they reach the age of 5, they can no longer sleep in the same room. It's because when they get more mature, that thoughts come up, and you would need to avoid that sort of condition, right? 5岁不同席, right? Oh no, not same place. They can't even sit on next to each other. So it's like a boys' school, good grammar school in a sense. That's applied at the custom of that time. Is to avoid thoughts. Avoid that condition. For them to focus too much on romance and forget about, improving, cultivating themselves. So nowadays we see in the, news, young pregnancy, teen pregnancy is very common because it's unfettered. It's everything's encouraging you. You watch the movie, it's encouraging you. You watch all sorts of medium, it's encouraging you. Right, and it's very easy to access those kind of material, pornographic materials that tainted the heart at a very young age. Right, many of us are fallen victim to it. I have to confess about it, because this is very easily accessible. It's very common, and the reason why we are born in this world as well, the pre-existing condition as well, as a human in the desire realm, we already have such a deep desire. So those things are not easy to overcome. But what we are trying to say is not that extreme. We're just saying that the normal interaction between male and female is already like very, very rarely seen, because everyone just jumps straight into the physical part without proper process in between. That is the problem we're trying to talk about. We're not saying that we shouldn't have, a proper relationship between male and female, and then leads into, marriage, and then have children and stuff like that, or having that kind of sexual life. But the problem, what we're talking about, is there is no process anymore. Becomes anything goes, and hence problem like teen pregnancy easily occurred. To be fair, there are in ancient times there are also people with very young age, they already married, 16 years old, 13 years old. However, in the interest of that era, people's lifespan was shorter. Not saying that it's right, but saying that their time, their law, their morals. For our case, our time, we of course saying that it has to be above 18, but This is a very tricky topic to talk about, but this is a topic we should not avoid at all. Not even in Buddhist setting. It should always be properly treated with respect as well, because this affects the human society, and Buddhism is part of a society. You know, it's not telling everyone, oh, just be a monk. No, it's very good to be a monk, and even being a monk, you also need to overcome this as well. It takes the third level of enlightenment, which is what I shown last week, anagami. You know, Sotapanna, and then Sakagami, Anagami, the third level, Anahan, to entirely, you know, let go of the sensual desire of the five senses. 6 rooms is intellectual, right? 5 senses. And lust is chasing after the pleasure of the flesh. Many religious texts is talking about it. So it's a very common thing. And it takes that level of cultivation to fully be independent. That means they can't touch you anymore. So it's very common. And what we want to talk about here is sometimes having freedom does not mean it's unfettered. You know, there's another word called freedom in chain, in the sense of freedom in self-restraint, in the sense of you don't cross that threshold. Hence, you're no longer creating that trouble that will plague you for the rest of your life. You regret, right? And this is a protection for yourself as well. So, giving rise to lustful, perverted thoughts in the presence of someone who's good looking and stuff like that is in fact, how to say, destroying our appearance as well. In a sense, we become more and more hideous. In even not directly, but it becomes your 猥琐 in Chinese. Just you become more and more retreated in that mindset. You get caught up in that thinking, and you lose that clarity. Trust me, that clarity is so precious. 就是清净的那种. That clarity allows you to be flexible, be resilient at any situation, because you can see things as it is. But if you get too caught up in any of the particular situations, in this case you caught up in the lustful thought pursuit, you lose a lot of control over your life and become a slave to sensual desire. You jump from one relationship to another, you change, you swap. You know, your partner very frequently. That's a very unhealthy lifestyle. You know, we always talk about healthy mind, healthy body. You know, mental illness is a problem, is sickness. In this case, it's also unhealthy for us. Obviously, you never can use one size fits all. Some people might have a situation, you know, with relationship, they do it properly and nicely. Okay, understandable. But we're talking about the act of it, right? Not having a peace of mind, always want to chase after another thrill, excitement. So think of it like food, all right? If you eat something very tasty, you know, of course you want to eat more, so you eat more. However, when you excessively eat it and it becomes a habit, always want to chase after, you know, better taste, better texture, some exotic taste, exotic texture. Eventually, you will realize you know, either get obese, which is the light thing, and then you get cancer or you get diseased because you excessively indulge in it. And it becomes something pleasurable, becomes something torturous, something like hell to you. Same goes for, you know, romantic relationships. Same goes for this sexual relationship as well. If you over pursue it, you see we already have medically called STD, sexually transmitted disease. All these AIDS, stuff like that is coming out from this. Why do you think this thing happened in the first place? You know, this disease. It's because of this unfettered act. It's nothing wrong to pursue someone you like, but it's something wrong if that is the only thing you have in your mind. Because our life has to have a lot more than that one, you know. and you need to prioritize what's important to you. That means restraint. And the more younger you are taught of this restraint, the better you are, easier you are when you grow up in face of this problem. Because if you, that's why it's very conflicting, right? If you say, oh, you want to liberal, you want to be free and all that, you can do whatever you want, freedom, liberate our sexualities in 60s and nowadays. One thing is allow you to express freely as well. However, we are not perfect beings. We have no self-restraint in terms of innate. We have that restraint, we have that bottom line, but we usually go over, and then we taste the bitter end, and then we start to think back, okay, I need to calm down a little bit. But by then you already have all this disease, broken relationships, your parents already like getting sick of your shenanigans, a lot of women find troubles, or many unclaimed children littered around, unfortunately, and think of the perspective of other side. You have the tree for 10 minutes, and then what left behind, you have bastard children, or what? I sound like an ancient person. Okay, no, like you have the unlegitimate children. Bastards. That's like very old. Bastard in terms of like illegitimate children of a child of a noble, but we don't have noble anymore. But you have a lot of children that are having fatherless, motherless, or have a messy family life because they don't know who is who, and one keeps changing partners and stuff like that. Think on their perspective, what would they feel? They feel powerless. They feel like everything is very 浮躁, very unstable. And children, especially when they're young, they're in need of a very stable environment, and a loving and proper environment to properly grow them as a bright young man and young woman, right? And you need to have role model example. You can see how hard it is. It takes a village to raise the kids, and to have children growing up in this chaotic environment. Yes, there are some jewels made out of this. They get resilient. They take care of their children. They take care of their own siblings. When the parents are not properly doing the job, or they split. Mother ran away, father drink alcohol, or the other way around. Like those tragedy can be reduced a little bit if we have, as a collective society, be more aware of it. I can't say, we can have to go back to the old times where there are stricter sense. Those things will come naturally by the society's demand, as we can observe when people get too much, of anything. Say back then, people smoke cocaine as a normal medicine ailment. But now they realize this is not good. This is poisonous. They smoke tobacco back then, right? On a airplane, there's just tobacco seeds. If you look at the airplane that was retrofitted, they still have that tobacco seeds in there. It's like no one smokes tobacco nowadays. Why? Because it's harmful. Same goes for this mindset about sexual promiscuity, which is unfettered act, pursuit of lust. So those things are poisonous in terms of the consequences is so painful, not just physically. It's hurting you as well. In Buddhism, we actually mention about that. All right. Yes, we want to have no oppression. We want to have more, freedom of expression. We also want to have a more relaxed society, not very strict, But we can't have it all. The consequences of too much, unfettered. It's everywhere, in every movie, every shows, even some of the children textbook. I once watched a YouTube of a pastor that gets really pissed at one of the school board in US pastor, one of the small town councilmen, You stand up and confront that councilman. You read a very jarring, children book that's meant to be under age of 5 or something. Young, pure, innocent child. And, they read those kind of very, I don't want to describe it here, very jarring kind of sentences of sexual acts in the children books. Of course, they do it in a roundabout way. And it was like, is this something you show to your children? Have you done your job vetting this kind of materials? It's like, this is a disgrace. This is a shame. And the fact that you feel uncomfortable when I read it out loud in front of a crowd means that it's something that should not be shown to the public, let alone the kid. Because common sense is gone, right? It's maybe, what I'm trying to say is there's a line. We need to draw the line. Now I'm talking about this very bottom line kind of thing, but what's the perks of holding yourself back, in presence of your lustful pursuit, right? How do we manage the relationship with this, right? Obviously, eventually you want to purify it to the point where it's not a problem. You can appear as that form, but you no longer be affected by it. But that's not something we can reach right now in our lifetime. If you go to Pure Land, yes. But I don't want to restrict to that particular crowd. I want to make it more accessible to everyone. So first, when you look at this society, if we pursued not just lust, we pursued fame, pursued wealth, pursued maximum profit, maximizing profit, bottom line mentality, scrape the bottom of the barrel, pursued food, a lot of cozy life. All you get is a small benefit. Why is it small? Because to get a benefit, you need to understand how long the benefit lasts. How wide is the how long does it last on you? Not just physically, mentally as well. And what is there any consequences? Is there any side effect after you pursue this? Right? Say if you have vast amount of wealth, what does it mean to you? Of course, obvious thing, you can buy anything you want. You can buy a company, you can buy anything. You can do so many things. But what is the responsibility or consequences that comes with it? You have to manage so many estates, trust. Yes, you can have hire lawyers and stuff, you can have an easy life. It's a good problem to have, but it's also a huge problem. And the social standard is different now. Everyone look at you from that angle. No one look at you as who you really are. Very few people would, right? People would look at you as a human walking wallet, something like that. I don't know. That kind of admiring gaze is not genuine, not long-lasting. It's just because you're wealthy, you're rich. Of course, there are deeper ones where they see your capability to build your wealth and stuff that's impressive. But it's only one side, I'm not saying that you should not, but everything has a plus and minus. No matter where you are, whatever position you are, you lose that kind of a down-to-earth interaction with everyday people because you're already up there. You can't. So same goes for everything we enacted as a society in laws and stuff like that. We no longer put the bottom line safety net for this kind of interaction between male and female. We let it be, very loose morals in that sense. And the consequences right now you can see is a lot more, tragedies. Families not working together, or families getting, like I said, more chaotic. And another thing is abortion as well. It's another sensitive topic, but we need to look at it in a broader perspective. Like the reason there is a problem with this is because of unfettered, uncontrolled sexual misconduct, right? A proper relationship, children born out of that very seldom will touch abortion. It will always be either, problem of physical problem, like the baby no longer able to survive, prematurely born and then unable to get oxygen. Those are different things. It's very seldom to have abortion when this children is coming out of a normal, stable, loving relationship. Of course, I'm very aware that I can't be very blatant, be very like chest up and say, yeah, you should do that. But I am not a fan of any kind of harmful action against living beings. Doesn't care if it's conscience or not conscience or whatever the argument is. Oh, the baby is actually quite arrogant. Oh yeah, that baby will not have the sentience. How do you know? Electromagnetic wave? This is not right. I understand there is a need for it. Not saying that I agree, but there is the problem of why did it happen in the first place. This is the hard thing, right? In the first place, if it has a very strong safety net for young children, to have a well-protected environment, right? Let them open up to this kind of matters when they're more mature, properly guided in a sense of maturely. You can have fun with it, but you have to be mature about it. You have to understand what it means when you do the deed. Just because you wear the protection or anything does not mean you're safe 100%. You need to be prepared for the consequences for that. It's a serious thing because it's something that you open up to another person. You open up your personal space for another person. And if you treat it like, take away, anyone can just have take away. Of course, it's cheap. You cheapen yourself. You cheapen your dignity. You cheapen their partner as well. If you treat it seriously, you treat this as a one precious part of yourself that only the right person should have it, and you being cultivate yourself well, and then you attract the kind of people that are decent, right? Then you wouldn't have too much of this problem. So this kind of teaching needs to be taught by parents to children most effectively. School can do so much, can only do so much. This is essentially a family education, but the kind of cultural mindset that we should have. There are many frameworks to do it, right? In our Asian society, we have this Confucius thinking. In the Western society, they have Christian family, in a sense. And in this sense, it's a safety net that needs to be appreciated more, right? Of course, it's not perfect. Of course, it can be restrictive. Of course, it can be a bit too dictating sometimes, sometimes overbearing. But we cannot deny the safety net it provides, And even when we have this problem of young kids or young children, teenagers have pregnancies, those communities have that strength to garner that sort of help, to have the baby safely delivered, adopted by other people. Those are more humane approach towards it. If this does happen, and it will happen a lot more, unfortunately. So what we can do right now is, we approach this kind of teaching more often, in a more sensible, more rational, more reflective tone, rather than trying to argue pro and anti. Stop painting this in black and white. Stop painting the young children's life in black and white. I don't care if it's in the baby stage, stage 1 or 2 and 3. They are not a product to be carved as a thing. They are sentient beings, right? Sentient beings that does not. They are not waiting for the body to form to get in there. They already have make a choice because of your affinity with the parents. This is something serious, and something needs to be. It's very hard because right now we have a very different consensus. Granted, I actually appreciate it because it allows more variety of opinion, but it can be confusing. So going back to the point, why is this problem happening in the first place? Too many children's, not having a stable family. Hence, unstable mentality is more likely to happen. Hence, more problems in their behaviors. And they are the victims of this kind of environment. Obviously, you have karmic dimension in it. In the past, they may have committed that similar deeds that put them in the current position. But if we go back to how did it all begin, it's this lack of this kind of plus and minus teaching. Why do we need to hold back when we can just have fun committing this kind of act with one another? We're not harming anyone, we're not hurting anyone. 你情我愿, you won, I won, so we do it. That's why we need karma. Because I can't think of anything else. Alright, so here Buddha has mentioned, alright, a person who do not commit adultery with other man's wife or other person's partners, and if their mind is not dwelling on this kind of perversions and lustful thoughts, they will get 5 benefits. 这边的5善是5种利益. See, very sensible teaching. What's the benefit? What's the harm? It's not too hard to say about that to the world. Alright? Nothing leaves cause and effect, consequences. Why did that? What is the act that leads to these consequences? Good, bad consequences. So, what is the good consequences? Remember, no sexual misconduct is one of the 5 things to be precepts. One of the 5 precepts. No sexual misconduct. And in terms of no committing sexual misconduct, there are 5 benefits. First benefit, protect your wealth. You do not lose your wealth. Think about how much money they lost in pursuit of prostitution, in pursuit of, spending too much unnecessary jewelries and stuff like that. Or to your mistress and stuff like that. Maybe it's a bit cliche, but I think it still happens. I don't know. And also in terms of wealth that disappears, in many other ways, fines and suddenly bad business. We call it bad luck in terms of your business. Those things actually is indication of your fortune falling apart. And fortune, good fortune, like I say, is a universal currency. Convert in money, convert in good relationship, convert in, good job position, convert in peace of mind. Think of it as a universal currency that is very important to our well-being. It's a currency we need. Just like, why do you go to work every day to earn a salary? Because you need to eat. You need to have you need to nourish yourself. Have a place to live. Same goes for good fortune. Those are universal currency that you need. You need good fortune to meet a good partner as well. You need good fortune to have a good relationship with other people. You need to have good fortune to get landed a good job, and a good career. So in this case, not committing your sexual misconduct, able to withhold that desire that you have, allows you to preserve your fortune. That's the very least thing we should do to protect ourselves. Second thing is number 2 is you have no fear. You're fearless because you're not doing something behind people's back. Of course, you're fearless. You do not fear, powerful people. You do not fear, police. You do not fear those people in charge of laws. You have no fear towards, in the sense of not arrogance, but in the sense of your peace of mind. You You follow the rules, you obey, you do the right thing. You have no fear about it. You have no bars be held. You just, peace of mind. You have a peace of mind. You live proudly, you live happily. Number 3, you have no fear of other people. If you look at someone else who has done too much of that, all right, you will usually lose that, that light in your heart, light-heartedness. Get very heavy, get very, everything you do is open, public. You have nothing to hide. You can see that kind of person. You can see that person is very open. It's very, very present. They're no longer hiding from the gaze of the people. Psychologically, they are safe, secure. This is what I mean by safety net. This is very powerful because you need to have that peace of mind before you can achieve greater heights in your career. Committing sexual misconduct, whether with other people's wife or with, even just a normal single person, but you're committing this kind of sexual misconduct, you will always be you always want to hide things. It's just psychology, because those acts were usually done in private. And if we do too much of it, of course, we reinforce that kind of mindset. Everything you see is colored with that kind of lens. And that habit will ingrain in your day-to-day interaction. So every time you look at people, you don't dare to look at them in directly. But in a way, you're lacking that light in your heart. Everything is weighing down. It's not as light as it is. Because if you're light-hearted, if you're not like too burdened and everything, you're able to see things as is. You're able to face the world, no matter how hard it is. You have that, like I say, the clarity of mind. 正大光明, right? So those are number 3. These are what we call the benefits of the world. Worldly benefits, benefits that you can get in this worldly day-to-day. They are not even the main thing. They are not the big benefit. The real benefit, those are just bonus. The real thing, the salary, real benefit is if they do not practice Buddhism, they do not, in contact with Buddhism, they did not go to Pure Land, they did not vow to born to Pure Land, their karma naturally will be in heaven. They will naturally be either human or heaven. And if they have heaven in its desire realm, because they didn't practice meditative tranquility, they're still stuck in the desire realm. That means there's male and female. 升天天上玉女作父. Basically, you have a very, dignified life, a very decent and upright person as your wife or husband. Number 5 is you will return from the heaven, and if you finish your routine, your enjoyment perks in heaven, you go back to human realms. But your spouse will always be the upright person. They will not do that kind of deeds with others. And whatever you do it's proper. It's very, peace of mind in a sense. All this is talking about peace of mind. Your wealth is not taken away from you. You're not afraid of the law, because why? Why do you afraid of the law if you do everything right? In the way of, according to the law, according to the conscience. Number 3 is you have no fear of people. You don't fear people's gaze. You don't avert people's gaze. You look them in the eye, you just be with them. Because you have nothing to fear about. You have peace of mind. All this is talking about peace of mind, because sexual misconduct is directly opposite to it. You're hiding like a snake, like a rat, doing things that is exciting, but you cannot show it to the public because it's disgusting, in a sense. So first 3 is about human current benefit, and the last 2 is in heavens. If they do not go to Pure Land, if they vow to born to Pure Land, of course it's easy. It's easier because it's Pure Land, pure heart. It's just perfect. So Buddha say that this is the opposite. So plus and minus. So what is the cons of committing sexual misconduct? If people are unfettered in their sexual pursuits, for example, having committing adultery with other people's partners, spouse, right? They will receive the 5 negative consequences. What are the 5 consequences, right? These are breaking the sexual misconduct. First, consequences. Family, you will not be in peace. Your family will not be at peace. For example, what supports a family? A good relationship, right? So 家事不和. So your family is not in harmony because relationship is broken, cheating on each other. That's something I don't have to elaborate too much. You can see in the news. There's even the TV show where, are you the father? You're not the father. And then that person has been, it sounds funny. It is funny. But when you look at that person who has raised the children that is not his for 24 years or something, you will feel a tinge of sadness and like, oh, this is what adultery really do to you. It's awesome and fun if you look it in the, pornographies and stuff like that. You thought, oh my God, this is exciting. But when you look at the real life consequences, God, it's just painful. It is painful. Because it's hurting yourself in the end, right? Number 1 is 家事不和. Your family you'll not be at peace with your family. Bad relationship with your family. Had a row with your family. Why? Number 1 is you're cheating on the partners. Your children will be angry at you. Your wife will be angry at you. Break up and stuff like that. Number 2 is wealth. You will lose the wealth that supports the family. All right. So without wealth, physically you cannot support. Without good relationship, mentally it's no longer a safe harbor. All because you want that 3 moments, 5 seconds of secret happiness, guilty pleasures. In a sense. So it's just a matter of, do you want to have long-lasting benefit, or you just want to have that few moments of excitement? It is really pleasurable, and then after that, suffer the consequences for long term. A lack of confidence if you have not family. It's not just applied to people with family. It just applies with you as a single person as well. Commit too much of that. That's including the, sexual misconduct, including masturbation, etc., etc. You get very negative thinking. You have that sense of cloud over your head, and it's very weighing down on you. And if you do not have proper help, you will sink back into that pleasure or comfort, and that is even worse. So this is the thing, right? It's like investment. If you invest well, and it gets more and more and more, right? But same goes for these negative deeds. If you do it once, you have the joy of it, and then you want a taste of it. It's just like good dish. Eat more and more and more and more, and get more obese, and more obese you are, you feel more sad and lack confidence. You want to eat more to escape from it, which ironically adds to your obesities. Same goes for sexual misconduct. You do more and more and more and more, sucking out of your energy, and physically it sucks out of your bone marrow. All right, just read up on science, man. I'm pretty sure it really hurts your mental faculty as well. But those things are why we need to talk about this properly to the public, so that it reminds myself, reminds other people, because we are all exposed to this extensively. It's not like the old days where people need to actually get a book, only then they have contact with this. Literally, it's in your phone. Even my time doesn't have phone. It's Nokia. There's no internet. Now they have smartphone. It's everywhere. You can do it anytime. Right? But in this case, we're actually talking about with other people. But this is true. You see someone's appearance, and then you get attracted to it, and then you jump straight into that final act without understanding, what it means if we do it. And if we have not adding the cost benefit calculation, then we will end up committing the deed, going through a car crash of a relationship, a wreck of a relationship, and then only then realize, oh, I need to learn about this. It's different from you already understand all this, even though you might not experiencing it properly or understand it fully. You're aware of these consequences. And if with proper guidance, people will show you the example. You're aware, like, this is not what I want. Right? So always practice this kind of awareness. All right, so number 1, no family, not in peace, not in harmony, you lose money. Number 2, what did they say properly? 佛说第二个恶报，现在表面上看不见，从前你犯法。Okay, cool. So number 2 is no longer obvious in the modern family, modern society, because maybe back then there's a law against adultery. And pretty recent, before this recent that it got disbanded, like 1700s or something. Like basically adultery might get you, landed in jail or even punishable by death, stuff like that. It looks like it's less consequences, right, in a human terms, right? However, remember, if in the laws of the human do not touch you, laws of karma does not change. That's why we need to have karma. Like I said, I can't emphasize anymore. At the end of the day, we need karma. Because laws of karma it's the one that governs everything. It's not an entity, it's just you reap what you sow, action and reaction. It's laws of physics, something like that. It's universal, it's there, it's always there. You'll always be there. It doesn't matter what religion you're in. If a good, enlightened religion will always talk about karma, directly, indirectly. They might not use the word karma. They might use the word, redemption. Redeem yourself. Cleanse of your sins. If we don't understand what it means, it become like a advertisement that has no 喊口号. There's only, yelling for slogans, but there's no substance in it. If you understand it, it's cause and effect. It's cost-benefit calculation. It's helping you navigating through this confusion of a human life. You can't see the consequences straight away, hence you committing it. All right. So number 2 is being punishable by law, but this is not happening in our society. So we used another word, punishable by laws of karma. Punishable by a very negative laws of karma. And what we're talking about right now is the consequences, karmic consequences. Number 3 is 自欺欺人，大庭广众，身心不安。Oh, number 3 is you felt ashamed. You felt like you were a fraud. And then Master Shin Kong is like very realistic. He's like, nowadays thick skins are everywhere. There are many thick skins. In old days, they might be a bit more shy about this kind of adultery stuff. Nowadays, they were like, yeah, I slapped that person. Yeah. They even brag about it. There's no such thing as, there's very, very hard to feel your conscience anymore. It was buried deep. Because the convention is different. Right now, it's like, just go ahead, unleash yourself, chase after unlimited wealth, unlimited, pleasures, of the flesh, etc., etc. Go ahead, pursue it, as long as you don't break the law, and the law doesn't even talk about this. Like, I'm not killing people, I'm not stealing from people, so how am I wrong? Stuff like that, It's very shallow kind of mindset. And because there's no teaching on this, of course, they can't go any further. So losing the sense of conscience means that you're not desensitized from this, right and wrong in a way. We still need right and wrong. There's no ultimate right and wrong, but we still need this to navigate in our life. Otherwise, we will do things without thinking it's harming other people. Wrong as in you actually harm them. As you harm yourself, you might not realize you harm other people. So losing that compass, moral compass, means that you're losing that sensitivity towards your deeds, the thing that you did, what kind of effect it has on you and other people, and also losing the kind of acknowledgement of other people's respect Like you need to respect their person as well as a person. Instead, what replaces conscience is a hollow shell, like a zombie. Keep chasing after, greed, hatred, ignorance, the sensations, pleasures, sensual desires. That means the depth, the negative consequences you accumulated is multiple fold, billion-fold than the ancient people's transgression. So because there's nothing to stop you from committing more grave acts, and you get more and more unfettered. So that's unfortunate. Number 4 is, yes, there we go. Number 4 talks about consequences in the real sense. The first 3 is still talking about bonus, negative bonus, not positive. Negative light punishment. The 4th one is a real one. When you die, pass away, you will go into a sort of a hellish realm where you need to hug the pillars of fire to be punished. Literally, your flesh against a steaming hot metal. 抛落. It's a very common thing, right? People who commit, in the sense of this cultural context, people who commit the adultery or sexual misconduct, usually the case is they will end up in there if they do not clean up their act quickly. And it takes a long time. According to the sutra, is taking 千万亿劫, 千万亿岁才能离开. So that means it takes a very long time to get out of this. So number 5 is, even you get out of the hellish realm, you will fall into a animal realm. So you don't just go straight back to a human. Once you've fallen from grace, you will take a long time to get back to where you are. Because remember, all these things is your state of your mind. And we understand in the kingdom, animal kingdom, there's a lot of animals that do not have separation of, families, degrees of closeness. You do not commit sexual deeds to the third cousin and be within this range, right? Confucius is especially strong on this one. Like he codified this kind of mindset, and Chinese has been very, very good at following it. If you look at other parts of the world, some of them marry their close cousins and stuff like that. In Chinese, we don't even allow that. 同姓不能通婚. Same surname cannot have family. So Li cannot have with me. Needs to be others. That effectively prevents, this kind of incestuous relationships that will lead to, first, biologically disabled. We will have a very disabled children production, and then of course it will mess up entire family relationships. But this is the scary part of the Saha world, our 6 realms. Do you want to deal with this again or not? If not, then go to Pure Land. Seriously, I plead you all. I had enough of this. Yeah, get out of here, man. Okay, so back to the point. So number 5 is you fall into the animal realm, and remember, animal realm has no, they do not avoid incestuous relationship. They have this problem as well. And so what means they are heavy, they still committing these kind of deeds, even though they escape from hell, in a way. So this one takes precedence over a lot of the chapters, because this one is something everyone did in their mind, if not in their body. Not everyone did. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't say that. This is something that a lot common people will commit that easily. Right? It's because it's just taking minds. It's just a thought kind of thing, and we thought is harmless, but it's not. It forms into action and speech. It forms the reality around you. And everyone nowadays are more loose on this thing. That means that they are more prone to commit this kind of deeds, adulterous, right? Adultery, perversions, and then this perversion has formed into something criminal as well, pedophile and stuff like that. It gets more common than before. And so this is why those are safety nets that we should not take off in the name of freedom or liberty or sexual liberation or anything. There are safety nets there for a reason, right? It's a line we did not cross as a society. And if we allowed this to happen, which it already did, then there's no turning back, because how do you pull back a whole few generations of people who were, allowing their lowest part of themselves to govern the upper part of themselves, basically, that lives their life with their lower half of their body instead of their conscience. A few generations, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, right? Of course, I'm not talking about everyone. There are people, there are communities, they are very strong, protective of that. And of course, I'm not talking about extreme, chastity over the top, like the other end, the other extreme. That ends up with what? Even more pedophiles. I'm talking about a healthy relationship with this kind of topic, because this is a human procreation thing. This is about, of course, it's have pleasure, have fun, but do it properly between husband and wife. And even between husband and wife, you shouldn't be doing too much. The Buddhism also mentioned that. Master Yin Guang mentioned that in his recent work. He did try to advise a Jushi, one of the lay Buddhists, that keep visiting him. He's very good, this lay Buddhist, practices Buddhism earnestly. He didn't commit sexual misconduct per se, but he did too much with his wife. And even when he's sick, he's still committing that acts of, copulation, stuff like that, sexual deeds. And that hurts his body from recovering. He's trying to tell him that, because Venerable Master Yin Guang, as you know, he's not a normal person. He can see from his face he's very weakened. He already hinted at him and said, you shouldn't do this. Of course, because as a monk, right, you don't just open up and say you shouldn't do this. But he did regret not saying that in his face, because it actually will save his life. That you should not have too much, sex with your wife, because it's gonna hurt your body recovery. You just recover from cold, stuff like that. And doing that exerts energy, because you're creating life, right? Obviously, you need to have energy from your body. That is very common sense. And you should do it only when, both in a mentally sound environment. So those things is something we, as a human being, we should not avoid, unless you're going towards the path of monkhood, and that's different. But there's only the minority of our society. Majority, we continue as usual as a lay person, no matter what religion you are. Managing this is crucial in managing our future as human beings. Now we have few generations of very loose kind of definition of safety net, and to pull it back is insurmountable. Not impossible, insurmountable. The only way we can do is like what we do now, our own communities, have them well-informed choice, well-informed teaching, and guided by parents step by step. Do not tolerate on this matter. Do not allow it, but also do not overly suppress. Because you overly suppress, people are going to get more. It's like putting a red button in front of you. Do not press it. Of course, people are going to press it, right? We are monkeys, right? In a sense, like our curiosity is very strong. Do not press the red button. Can you imagine that? Put it in the street and say, do not press the red button. Of course, they're going to press it. The best way is to treat it maturely. And how do you treat it maturely? You need to give them a full understanding on this, full talk. How do you manage relationship between male and female? And nowadays it's different, right? And to be honest, even nowadays, this situation that happens, is because of this conduct was done too much. I know it's controversial, and it's up to you, Auntie, to leave it or leave it in the editing or put it out there. But yeah, we do. It is one of the sexual misconduct in a sense. So, male and female is the normal one. But having said that, it does not negate our attitude towards everyone to be treated respect, to be treated equally, to be treated with, respect. Our attitude as a Buddhist, we should always be, understand what's right, what's wrong, understand the bottom line, understand the laws of karma. Because in a sense, we are like lawyers in a way. You're aware of it, right? Like in my case, aware of it, but still committing some of it, which is bad. And hence, I will need to experience double the punishment. Of course, everything can be changed. If I'm aware of it and I commit the problem, aware of my problem, change it, asking people not to do it, by example, then I got double the merits. Or negate the punishment. Not negate, but lessen the punishment. Those things can be changed, right? Yeah, I'm taking extra long on this topic because this is very serious. And I myself is not innocent 100% from it as well. Not that I deal with any people, but yeah, I'm not going too deep in that. But I just want to express that sort of, wished hope for future generation. They no longer have to be victims subject to this kind of exposure, and premature exposure ruins the innocence of them. No, it should be done in the right way, properly managed, and carefully, cautiously open up to them. Shouldn't be carelessly exposed to them. So this is why I start to appreciate Master Ching Kung's 一条龙 system. But I can see a few potential issues of, like how do we manage it properly in terms of this relationship with other people. Because the outside world is very different, right? If you're in the inside, we need to expose them carefully to the outside, but we cannot isolate them the outside. Otherwise, they will, like a red button. You only want to press the red button. It gets harder to control back. It's better to let that desire to be subsidiary of your consciousness, your conscience, than so-called, suppressing it altogether. It's very hard. Obviously, this problem will not exist if we have even earlier prevention. Like when you were a baby, when you were in mother's womb, you were well taught. And then when you come out, mother's was looking after you very well, not allowing you to touch unnecessary stuff like phone. I can survive without the phone. Why do my kid needs to have phone? Obviously, you can have like a offline kind of situation. But what I'm referring to is not this special group of people that are able to have 一条龙 kind of school. Those are more experimental. Realistic, day-to-day, everyday parents. They can't avoid it in a way. They can control the TV, parental controls, right? YouTube, Netflix, all that. But my advice is always, always start from behavior, the groups, the crowd, expose yourself with. And if you happen to have children, you need to have, it has to be more important than your career to protect them from this. Even a good family, in my case, a good family you're in, this might be a part where people might be neglected. They might not look after what their children are looking at, what their children are seeing. And at a very young age, they might expose to this, and hence addicted to these deeds, and wasting a lot of their energy, literally physical energy, their jingqi and their bone marrow and their mental energy on this pursuit of this. And it's a waste. It's a really waste of resources. Nothing wrong with having, crush or romance and all that, but if it's becoming everything, overriding a lot of your life, part of your life, then it's a problem. So I think that would be my conclusion. Because people, when they do not see their consequences before their eyes, they cannot accept it. One is you have instantaneous joy. The other one is, what if? What if not? It might happen, it might not happen. Because you can't see it, you say, okay, it might sound very reasonable, Dylan, but, does it really happen? Yeah, would it be? Mate, if it actually happens before you, it's either too late or you're lucky, Yeah, it's like telling you don't run towards that direction because there is a cliff over there, and then all you can see is a beautiful, maybe all you can see is a very nice place to go, and you don't want to stop. Then what can we do? 现代人看一些古人的不相信 Yeah, a lot of people thought like those kind of things are just asking people to be good person, do not yeah. Look at the result. Look at the result. Look at the result of how the ancients rule their society. Yes, you can say dictatorship and all that, but you also need to be aware of, beyond this shallow look at other people's society. You have to look at, are they actually living in peace? Look at their mental, in a sense. Are they having a peace of mind? Less dimension to worry about, less complications. Because the society has a very strict codified social conduct. And some of them is very bad, of course. Burning witches and all that, it should not happen. I will never support that kind of ignorant act. However, like I said, there's nothing 100%. Generally speaking, they are much more simple. Peace of mind. Less, wary, like we have. They might only have that when they actually having war. But, instead of looking at them as, they are technologically backward, they die early, hence they must be very terrible. Maybe not. If you're in the environment, and you're generally in the normal people kind of level, general happiness, where do they get it from? Let's just assume all the physical condition taken care of. Their farm is not lacking in produced, they're paying the taxes, and they have a good life. That peace of mind is there. And if you look at Chinese society, it's actually much more obvious. Let's not get blinded by those important big spots in the history. Those things happens imagine 50 years, 10, 20 years, once every 20, 30 years. Those are very, if you live as them, it's a very rare event. It's like thinking about, what happened 20 years ago, financial crisis, and then another 10 years onwards. It's very, you need to think of that day-to-day level, and you start to realize, maybe they have more peace of mind. They don't have to the young kids doesn't have to be too wary of strangers because they know they were taken care of in the village. The parents doesn't have to be constantly, having their hearts hanging by their sleeves. I mean, hearts hanging every day, worry about whether the kids will be influenced by this and that. Only when you reach to the very high level, or you go into the city where you actually get a little bit more polluted. The so-called pollution is actually very innocent in our context. Even they went to the prostitution house, not all of them do the deeds. They just sit there and drink coffee, drink tea, and just talk about poetry and arts. And then for them it's polluted. But in our case it was okay, that's actually quite pure. So this is the entire different level of, mental wellness. Very different. Of course, not everyone gets to have that level of luxury, but generally speaking. plus and minus. Like I say, there's nothing, one size fits all. In terms of Buddhism, just Buddhism, in number one practice is to let go of our greed habit. And one of the most important serious greed habits that's troublesome is our lust. Letting go of lust is number one, because this unfettered sexual deeds, which is lustful deeds, is hurting our health. Number one, we cannot get long life because of this. Look at emperors of the ancient times; they always have short life, 50 years and stuff, because they overdo it. They are the only person who can overdo it. Like that, how many people they all worry about their crops, trying to sell the crops so that they don't get starved. How do they have time to do that deeds every single day, 3 times a day, something like that? No. So only the powerful, rich, and noble have that luxury to sit there and do this. See, you sit there and do nothing, then you start to think about that. That's our condition. Yeah, personal experience. You need to be productive. Humans are productive animals to produce. So that's why in Buddhism we have a lot of 出波. They don't allow you to have time to sit down. You go out 4:30 in the morning class, chanting. Okay, now you do the morning class, very tired, but you keep chanting Amitabha in our context, in our Pure Land school context. Zen, they sit in front of a wall and actually meditate properly. Not in front of a wall, sit in a group and meditate in the morning. You might chant the cultivation books. Why are we doing all this? Because we need to keep ourselves reminded of the Dharma. Get out of that net, those desire net. And it's very, very hard work. It takes long immersion in the environment to get out of it. To make it a distant concept. Now we talk about the 5 precepts like a distant concept, it's not something very common. It looks very ancient. It looks like outdated. Now when we talk about romance, we talk about boys and girls, talk about sexual misconduct, it sounds very, very sexy, very modern. That's unfortunate. That's the environment we are reinforcing as a collective group. We are in this frequency, low frequency, not that. The one of 5 precepts it's a common thing, and peace of mind. Everyone is at peace. Even ancient times, they show it's very hard for these young, handsome, study scholars, who on their way to imperial exam, Chinese, right? And always have situation of not always, there's a lot of case study recorded of this young stay-at-home wife happen to live next by it, and then this young scholar is studying, but then because of his look is very good and stuff, good looking, handsome, and then this young wife whom husband has went out for work far away, a few days, you have to stay outstation a few days. It's lustful thoughts. This applies to women too, guys, not just men. They have the adulterous thoughts. I want to have one night with this person, stuff like that. And usually, that is the demarcation point whether this person is going to be successful in his career or not. And it has been recorded so frequently that it can't be a story. It's real. And some of the people are prominent figures in politics, ancient Chinese politics. And those who made it in their imperial exam, they prevented themselves from committing adulterous deeds. Because back then no one knows. You're just hiding, you and her in that little shacks. Problem is the heaven is up there, because they have the concept. It's a common thing. The heaven is looking. Yes, it's awesome, it's amazing, it's sexy, it's hiding in a corner, but heaven is looking, and you have an entire future ahead of you. Which one do you want? Make a choice. And even those people who immerse themselves in this kind of teaching had a hard time holding themselves back, let alone us who are in the entirely different direction. Like, oh man, let's do it. And that means if you're able to overcome this in this current era, that means you're not a normal person. You have a deep meditative ability. You have cultivate many lifetime. It's like playing games. Level 10. That's what ancient people has to deal with. Level 10 level of sexual misconduct. What we have to deal with when we're born into this world is level 90, level 80. Well, maybe not 90. It's too much. Level 70. Immediately you have to deal with one of the most serious, rampant, unfettered kind of environment, sexual environment. And you need to be able to hold yourself back, pull yourself back from getting sucked into it, right? That means you did the deed, but you need to pull it back. It's very hard. So good luck. Prevention in Buddhism, right? Just to finish off this sentence, is a very long. Is everything. They did everything. They have mental food, which is morning cultivation, and then you see the 4-chi, the 7-day cultivation. Right, morning cultivation. What did they do? Finish, and then you just sit there and think. No, noble silence. You don't talk, so that it doesn't invoke any sort of wandering thoughts that will lead to reduce the possibility. Right, it's a statistic game, and then you immerse yourself in the sutra, chanting the sutra. It's a mental exercise, gymnastic. You just keep telling yourself, not keep telling yourself. It's natural. You just chant it. You don't even need to think too much. You just focus on it. And then lunchtime, right, before 12 o'clock, so that you don't get too late and you get sleepy. Of course, you still get sleepy, but you get into a habit over time. And then during lunchtime, they will talk about, think about the food that came into your bowl, appreciate it, always apply that kind of more positive mindset. Everything there is perfectly, they were well designed to improve, enhance your mental clarity. It's cleaning up the clock. And the longer you are in the environment, and the more earnest you are in learning the theory and practice of the sutra, the better you are, the more resilient you are. Of course, when you go out, it's a test. When everything's plunged your 5 senses. But there are reasons why they were designed that way. They are not just simply singing. I don't say I'm singing. I'm actually chanting, performing a service. First service is to yourself, to be honest, because you're actually having to remember everything. And then it's service to others. So those are very important stuff. And then after that, we have what? Afternoon. The whole afternoon is nianfo, 5-4. Chanting, praying, walking meditation. It might sound very monotonous if you just hear it from here, but if you actually give it a chance, like few days to immerse in it, you feel like everything is, because everything is very well routine. Obviously, this is can only happen in a short period of time. We don't have we might have still in China, the modern China, still have that community, the Buddhist community. They are very diligent, but they don't have like all the luxuries that we have. But that makes their Dharma hunger even better, and that Dharma hunger replace the hunger for worldly desires. Eventually, right, in that environment, if you stay long enough, I never stay longer than 7 days, unfortunately. If you stay like years, and not allowing the bad habits to take over, that means you're always looking at it, always be on your guard in the right way, be aware. You're actually able to attain a certain level of tranquility, It's not something we can market or something, but you will feel more at peace. In the end of the day, it's all about peace at heart, peace of mind. Peace of mind, no matter how well we eat, if you have no peace of mind, even you can be the richest man in the world and burden carried. But if you have that peace of mind, even though you're just eating a plain porridge for the morning, that porridge tastes like one of the most delicious, sweetest, nourishment, because you worked very hard in the previous days. you work, you chant, and of course they always incorporate the 出播, which is going out and do the housework, chores. Who else is managing this? This is a self-volunteering organization. Everyone's got to do their part. That's the best thing of it. You are part of it. The bowl is for you to wash. The dish is for you to cook. The bed is for you to make. This is not a hotel. This is your home, in a sense. Take care of it so that it will take care of your soul, in a way. Take care of your mind. Take care of your practice, cultivation. So if you, this is the part where it purifies it in a good way. So I encourage anyone who have opportunity to in contact with this kind of Dharma place, especially as a Pure Land practitioners, we have a lot in US, in Australia, around the world, thanks to Master Ching Kong's propagation and his teachers and Master Nian Gong, Nian Zhu, and other great masters as well. But in our context, encourage anyone, if with the Pure Land Learning Centers that's still affiliated with Master Ching Kong's teaching, go and visit, go and participate 1 or 2 days retreat. If there's no retreat, just chant, follow their chanting. But my suggestion is to sign up for 7 days retreat. This is the best, one of the strategy to deal with excessive exposure to the 5 senses. And eventually you will get sick of it as well. That's all that is. It's amazing in first go, but in terms of 5 sensual pleasures, the worldly pleasures, but the longer it gets, the more dull it gets. Always need to switch up different things. Dharma pleasure is different. Dharma joy, we call it Dharma joy, right? It's still joy, right? And the best thing is, this is why the 3rd level of enlightenment in original Buddhism, which is anagami, right before Arahant, able to let go of this worldly pleasure, because it's nothing compared to the joy he's experiencing. The joy he's experiencing does not need to be constantly refreshed. Like your TV, you need to constantly switch channels, mediums, higher resolution, better resolution. It's nothing for them. They are coming from inside out. The joy is flushing out endlessly. It's an endless spring of happiness. First thing, free from worry. Hence, they are very healthy. Committing sexual misconduct, you always worry because someone's going to caught you out. It's like, oh my God, someone's looking at me when I'm doing the deeds. Or someone's, husband's going to cut me into 3 pieces because I slept with, I commit adultery with his spouse. Stuff like that. You always look out for dangers. And then you don't dare to look at people because you're afraid they will look through your deeds. That's if you already have a sense of shame. Of course, if there's no sense of shame, that's different. You just do it openly like an animal. What can you do? Let the karma take its course, unfortunately. So back to this point, before I want to wrap this up. In Buddhist context, how we overcome this is, we have this system, have this chanting and all that. At night time, you sleep at 10, not too late, so that you don't overthink. Ideally, you don't talk, don't over chat. You just focus on chanting Amitabha. All right, and food. Do not eat the 5 types of vegetables. Vegetarianism is taken for granted. You don't eat meat, of course. You don't eat fish. Those are already common. We'll talk about no 5 types of vegetables that will disrupt your hormones. First one is hun, we call it hun. First one is onion. Second one is chives. Then garlic. 大蒜. What is 大蒜? Leek? No, come on. Yeah, onion and leek. Then what about 葱, spring onion? So something like that. Those kind of 小蒜, 大蒜, 葱, 菜, 韭菜, 洋葱. So back then there's no onion in China. Not that kind of onion that we use, but it's considered the family, right? The family of this chives, spring onion, garlic, Why did Buddha specify these 5 types of food? Because when you cook these 5 types of food, it will invoke. It has to be a huge amount, right? I'm not saying that you eat one bulb suddenly you want to do things. That's not rational. Talking about eating a lot, it will indirectly, invoke that hormone, that hormone that 性冲动 that makes you want to commit the sexual deeds. Right? It's a tendency kind of thing. It makes you more tendency to do that. And then the other one is if you eat it raw, you get angry easily because it invokes a different part of your, hormones, that bow up your livers. So I'm translating now. All right. So those things physically has, effect on us by any food. But this one, if taken in huge amount, that's a problem. Right. But we're talking about actual practicing. Some people actually follow it, which is respectable. But if it's just small or once in a while, not like eating every single day, it's fine. Unless in the temple, they will usually never use garlic, any of this. This is laid down by Buddha, so no one will use that. And usually it's vegan food as well in temple. They usually don't have dairy products, milk products, eggs in the temple. It will be just pure vegetables. The whole point is to clarify, to set up many nets, safety nets, so that you can channel your energy on chanting Amitabha, on cultivation. That's it. Medicine is always the exception. Okay, don't say no when you're sick. You need garlic pill. Those are perfect against cold. I use it a lot. It helps me a lot. And medicine is always special. Right. So point is they want to avoid conditions that will lead you to commit this kind of misconduct. This is what we call compassion. Who says Buddha has no feeling, no love? Of course he has. He's the most compassionate person. Because he always think very far, very deep, how to benefit people, not just on the surface, not just one time, one life, but many life. All right? So I hope we can take this today's session with the perspective of, I don't want to have long-term regret, pain later. So I am able to entertain, to start with, these thoughts of self-restraint, able to tune down this kind of pursuit if we already are in that. If we're not, then we strengthen this immune system, proper conduct between myself to myself, my mind. I don't want to entertain that lustful thought too much. Always think about consequences of disease. It might cause a lot of cancers, prostate cancers, etc. Other stuff, might cause me the good relationship because my energy is not there. I'm not present. I'm always avoiding. It might cause my family, if I already have family, a lot of troubles. And I do not mean only between two persons. I'm talking about with yourself as well. That's also something you need to avoid. Just because you didn't do it with other people doesn't mean you didn't have the thoughts or you didn't have the means to do it by yourself. And every one of those are hurting you anyway. If you understand there is a better way to gain happiness, pleasure in the right way, then you would not want to waste time on this. This is a gradual process. Give yourself time, but always allow this space in your mind saying that I will overcome this one day. And even now I will overcome it, no matter how many times I fail. This is a, holding game, battle of attrition. Whoever holds out to the last wins. If that one, the last, lustful thoughts and these perversions and adulterous thinking overpowers you in the very end of your lifetime, till the very end, then of course you will suffer the consequences. And if we're able to overcome it, able to, understand the real benefits, peace of mind, right? The real benefit is peace of mind. Peace of mind gives rise to everything. It's like a fertile land that grows everything. You know, grows your wealth, grows your good relationship, grows your happy family, grows your health. All right, grows your dharma, joy, grows your wisdom. So you need that peace of mind. Otherwise, your mind is very like earthquake, keep moving non-stop, or like typhoon, keep spinning. How can you have a good, healthy development? Right? You can't grow anything on it. It's an infertile land. Okay, good luck. Amitabha. You can see that this is a very serious thing. Oh, don't mind this too. Yeah, I need to change it. Alright, let's dedicate the merit and call it a day. May the merits and virtues adorn the Buddha's pure land, repay the 4 kinds of kindness above, and relieve the sufferings from those on the 3 paths below. May those who see and hear of this all bring forth the heart of understanding and compassion. Live the teaching for the rest of this life, then be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. Amitabha, Kan-en. Thank you so much. Have a good night and good morning to you. Have a good breakfast to you. Yes. Amitabha, 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 Amitabha.